Everybody, welcome to Breakfast All Day. That's Alonzo. That's Christy. I'm Matt. It is a tropical party here in my home. And we are talking about Jojo Rabbit because nothing says the tropics like a satire about a little kid whose imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler.
Yep.
Who wants to give us more?
Do you want to describe it?
No.
Okay.
Not more than I already did.
Do you want me to do it?
Sure.
Okay, fine. All right, so young Jojo, it is the waning days of World War II. The Nazi Party has seen better days, but he is still committed to being a Hitler Youth. And his imaginary best friend is indeed Der Fuhrer. And he has a very, black and white view of the world, let's say. But everything that he comes to know gets shaken up when he realizes that his mother is hiding a young Jewish girl in the walls. The mother is Scarlett Johansson. The young Jewish girl is played by Thomasin McKenzie from Leave No Trace. And Hitler is played by Taika Waititi, who also writes and directs. A kid named Roman Griffin Davis is Jojo, and he's terrific. This is a coming-of-age movie set against a fraught period of history and mostly played for laughs, and it mostly works.
I'm amazed this movie exists, and I know that Taika Waititi has been trying to get it made for like a decade now.
Yeah, it's based on a book from a while ago.
Yeah, and I can't believe what a little miracle it is that this movie even got greenlit in the first place.
Well, and you bring up the book. The book only glancingly once references him thinking about what Hitler would say to him. Like the rest of the imaginary Hitler, from my understanding, is mostly Waititi's creation.
Oh.
I agree with you. I'm kind of shocked that this movie got made. I was really impressed with this movie. It's very silly until it's not. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, I think, is Waititi's direction. He's really good. Even as zany and out there as Thor Ragnarok is, there's some heart to it. And it's that same level of heart that I think we've seen in Hunt for the Wilder People. And, there's some of that in What We Do in the Shadows. Like there's an affection, at least, for those characters.
And also a film of his I'd never heard of called Boy that Bibbs just did a ranking and put it like third on his list and said it's really good.
I've never seen that.
It is streaming on Canopy, so if you want to be a Waititi completist.
But there's the same kind of there's like a deadpan understatement to the weirdness which exists in What We Do in the Shadows as well as here. The tonal acrobatics that he pulls off here are pretty amazing because on paper this would just sound painful. Like it's a little boy and his 10-year-old kid version of Hitler is his imaginary best friend. And it's hilarious off the top, and I was laughing my ass off from the very, very beginning. It's just like joke. But then in the last 20 minutes of it, I was crying off and on for the last 20 minutes, tears streaming down my face. And I don't know how he pulled that off because there is, as you say, there is such truth and such poignancy underneath this absurd surface. Yeah,
one of the things or a couple of things that I think help make this movie work is that the way Waititi's Hitler is portrayed it's very much how much a fanatical 10-year-old would imagine Hitler. Like this is not a grown-ups, even a silly grown-ups portrayal of Hitler. Like this Hitler acts the way a 10-year-old would think an adult would act. The other thing is I get what goes into some of what goes into making this kid, at least the nicer parts of him, of Jojo, from Johansson, who I think has almost never been more charming than in this movie. Like she's kind of the mom that everybody else is, all your friends would be like, man, I wish my mom was that cool. She makes up these little fantasies just kind of off the cuff to cheer him up. And she's very sweet and very witty.
And I love real dramatic moments.
But she also has this thing where there's a great moment where, I was reminded of the Handmaid's Tale, where people are hanged in the public square, and he turns his head away, and she turns his head back, and you need to see this. You need to know that this is what's going on.
And the line afterward is so great. He says, "What did they do?" And she goes, "What they could."
Yeah.
And that's like the poignancy beneath the playfulness. And he finds that balance between the two of them so well.
I like this movie a lot. I don't love this movie. And I think it's because I think the humor works really well. I like its audacity. I like how dark it gets. I don't think the poignancy is quite as effective. I think sometimes he tries a little too hard to make us respond to things, and there's a familiarity to it that I think kind of undermines the film, because the humor seems to be coming from such a place of boldness and of darkness that a lot of people wouldn't dare to try, whereas the sentiment does. And so for me, I ultimately found it less effective, but I still like this movie a lot. I super admire everything it's trying to do and all of the plates that it's trying to spin. And even if it doesn't do it 100% for me, it's a good more often than not effectiveness.
Here's my question for both of you. This is a conversation I had with a filmmaker friend of mine who also had seen it and also had admired it, but he wondered, what's Taika Waititi trying to say here? By telling the story during this period with Hitler as a key figure in it, what's his point? I mean, and the one thing I kind of come up with is like easy, facile notions of like hope and redemption. Of course, the possibility of like perseverance and.
I think he's saying that children and sometimes adults who maybe behave like children can see the world in too simplistic a lens and can swallow easy answers, even if those answers are putrid and dangerous. And I think this is part of what makes this a coming of age story, is him sort of realizing that there is more to the world and there's more to understand about the world than the vision of racial purity and all the stuff that he's been indoctrinated into. I think the Sam Rockwell character is very essential in that here's a guy who is a Nazi officer, but harbors no illusions about Hitler's vision of the world and the sort of Nazi ethos that Jojo still spends most of the movie embracing.
Sam Rockwell's really great in this, of course. It's like a perfect fit for his like tossed off kind of nonchalance, arrogance, swagger. It's a good fit for that. Rebel Wilson's very funny in this.
Yeah.
It's a great supporting cast.
Stephen Merchant's scene
Oh,
is
yeah.
really good.
Well, and it's interesting. One of the things that's fascinating is both Wilson and Merchant are still playing relatively over-the-top characters, whereas Rockwell and Johansson are both, you get a sense of, the feeling of like, we're clearly losing, the end is coming, and kind of just resigned to like sticking it out. And Rockwell, especially, like from the moment he's like, yeah, I'm not on the front anymore. And, and he's, then he's not even at the camp anymore. And he's just kind of like, all right, and he's, you're right. Like he's got that kind of laid back that you never ever get to see out of a role like that. You never think of like laid back Nazi.
There are no laid back
right?
Nazis.
Like,
I think it's about perspective also.
Right.
I think, there are people who think, the war, we're going to win the war and it's going to change everything and da-da-da. And I think there are other people who can sort of step back and be like, the war will end and either this side will win or that side will win. And that will make some immediate changes. But in the general sense, the world kind of always remains on the same track. I don't know. I'm kind of garbling what I'm trying to say here.
No,
but
I get it.
I think there's a sense of maturity that some characters have that other ones don't, and Jojo is entering into that maturity.
As he learns. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I love that I never knew where this movie was going, right? And it goes in directions, and it sometimes gets close to going too far or going in the wrong direction, but he always manages to save it. And he'll pepper stuff in like the Heil Hitler bits. Right, like
Heil me, man.
When it, at one point the Gestapo, like there's 5 of them, and that ends up just like it goes. It's funny, and then it's not funny, and then it's really funny.
Yeah, it's like all the people in Muppets Take Manhattan, all the frogs that work at the Ad Agency with the rhyming name.
Right, or there's the scene where Jojo meets up with his little friend later.
Oh,
right.
I love their little friendship. It's so sweet.
Yeah, and like his uniform, and it was, and it's, right. And there's some horrifying stuff that you still get to see in this. And again, like the tone of this movie shifts in ways that it sneaks up on you, and I think a lot of that is, kind of what Johansson and Rockwell bring to the movie in that. They're more grounded and they're not as absurd as, say, and Mackenzie too, not as absurd as everybody else in the movie. And having three characters that are relatively grounded, I think, helps the audience go along with that. It kind of sneaks up the poignancy. But I love this movie. I think it's terrific.
Yeah, I also really love the costume and the production design. I love all the interiors of Scarlett Johansson's house because it's like really is bright and colorful. Like you don't think of this period in films as being ever bright and colorful. Everything is always like drab and green and brown and sad and fearful. But she's got this really cool like Art Deco townhouse with like beautiful art and the really wildly vibrant wallpaper.
And her great costumes.
Yeah, she dresses in like these fantastic little sweaters and there's this one shot that is so gorgeous. It's a wide shot of Scarlett Johansson and the kid, and she's wearing this like really bright turquoise blue coat against this bright green hillside, and they're sitting on the steps next to the river. And like Waititi will hold that shot and just like let them be in it and let them just hang out and have a conversation in it. And so you get a different kind of perspective on Nazi Germany than we often see, in that there is beauty and color and joy in life and also horror. Anyway, I dug it, and I'm sort of amazed it exists, and I'm giving it a 9.
I give it a 9 as well.
You're also saying 9. Alonzo.
What did I say?
You said 7.
Yeah.
Do you like your 7?
Yeah, I admire this film exists, and I appreciate Waititi really shooting for the back fence and all. But it didn't. It was like while I was watching it, when it was over, I was like, this is not totally landing for me, and so. I know I'm in the minority and people are going crazy for this movie, and I don't begrudge you it, but I appreciate again the effort more than the result.
Okay. I want to talk about the score too really fast. I want to say, did Nicholas Britell do the score? No, Michael Giacchino.
Oh yes, Michael Giacchino.
And the music choices in this.
Yeah. Oh. This is one where the music supervision, I think, is really spot on.
That too,
well.
from the very, very beginning. Also, I meant to mention who shot it. Mihai Malamare Jr., who has shot several Coppola films, including like Tetro. Anyway, so it's beautiful. Like all the pieces are there, and then the film is just wow.
I love it less than they do, but I still think you should see it.
I agree. It's worth seeing. So our number is an 8.3. It's at 78%. And I'm actually surprised that it's that high, because I would think it would be really wildly divisive for a lot of people, very polarizing.
Well, it did win the Audience Award at Toronto this year,
which is often a big predictor.
Yeah, which the Green Book won it last year,
and La La Land won it, and
so did Slumdog Millionaire.
Right.
So this could play well with audiences. You would think on paper this would be a movie that would play better with critics and with audiences, but it might be the opposite. I don't know.
Anyway,
judge for yourself.
Let us know.
I'm sure you will. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at BeFastAllDay. And check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Lots of fun goodies there. We talk about TV. We talk about trailers. We let our subscribers pick a movie every month, a classic that one or some or all of us have never seen before. And for October, we dug into the horror selections at Netflix, and you guys picked Train to Busan. So we'll be reviewing that this week on our Patreon page exclusively for our Patreon subscribers. So if you want to take a look at that, check it out. And thanks to everybody who has already signed up. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.